Hello, this is Brian Bohnsack, a program manager at Wichita State University's Environmental Finance Center. Today, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about the Small Community Assistance Program's Asset Management Tool, or the SCAP tool. We think this tool is a great way to leave your legacy at your water utility and improve not only the current operations, but also leave a foundation for your successors to continue your facility operations in the future. We think it's a great way for you to leave a legacy. Let's learn a little bit more about it now. If you haven't heard about the SCAP tool, it was actually developed by Eastern Research Group, or ERG. Eastern Research Group was contracted by EPA Region Sullivan to develop this tool. And as EPA saw the need for a free and easy to use asset management tool, because they would be replacing or no longer supporting their CUPS tool. Some of you may be familiar with EPA's CUPS tool, CUPS asset management tool. I know it was heavily used in the East Coast, but many folks are not aware of it or haven't heard of it. In this particular, the SCAP tool is a great resource they can use in its replacement. The SCAP tool does facilitate tracking and basic assessments of drinking water and/or wastewater assets. For those of you that are running both water and wastewater plants, if you decide to use the SCAP tool, you want to make sure that you have the specific program. There is a specific program developed for the wastewater side, as well as a specific or different Excel-based program for the water side. So make sure that if you do want to use the SCAP tool, make sure that you're using the right program, because it's going to make the data entry easier, and it will also just make the program work as it should. SCAP tool is great, prepares an ongoing analysis of your utility's asset inventory. And something that if you revisit it and keep it up to date, we think it's a great potential resource for you. It's a great way to inform others on the asset management status of your system, on the upcoming repairs and replacements that may be needed. That's a great way for you to pass down information to future operators and owners of your water utility. As I mentioned, or may have mentioned, we did pilot test. We at the EFC did pilot test this the SCAP tool at a water utility here east of Wichita in the small town of El Dorado, Kansas. And we found it to be a great use. And today we'd like to share a few things that we learned and a few tips that we think that will make the tool use easier for you to get started with. So the tool itself, the SCAP tool, is designed for small systems operators and utility decision makers. It is Microsoft Excel based, and depending on your level of familiarity and comfort with technology or Excel, there's either a macro enabled and non-macro versions. We like to think internally, or we like to say here internally, that the program's so easy that even a caveman can use it. Some of you may remember the old Geico commercial where the caveman was in the ads, and we think that this tool is something that even the caveman could do. Also, if you do get into the program and do want to look at try it out and get stumped, there is a very well-prepared user's guide. ERG developed a nice user guide that'll help you get moving and get started with your information. It's pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy to use. So a little bit more about getting started. As I mentioned, we did pilot test it here at a wastewater treatment plant and a drinking water plant. A few of our findings and recommendations that we have for you is, first, pull together your system information. That's going to make data entry into the program, into the SCAP tool, so much easier. Get maps, get schematics for your plant, have them available and nearby when you're sitting down to actually input the information. Also, grab as much equipment information as you can. You may have users manuals. You may have other information as to when major pieces of equipment were purchased and installed, and that's going to give you a great information to input into the system as the system or as the SCAP tool looks at, like how much remaining life your infrastructure should be expected to have. And like I said, just grab other information, construction projects, all the more information you have at the get-go that you can put your input into the SCAP tool, the better off you're going to be. For those, but we do realize that asset management planning and programming can be a big challenge, and it's easy to get kind of stumped or not want to get started. And so we encourage you to take little bites, just get started, start with big picture items, and don't get worried about all the small little intricate little items until you get into the system and get familiar with it and determine whether or not it's going to be really worth putting small little valves into the tool. It may or may not be worth it. But a big thing is just get started and get some of your biggest systems components into the system, into the SCAP tool, and see where it can go. So you've heard a lot about it. Let's go on and see what the SCAP tool itself looks like. So here's the SCAP tool. This is the first page, the basic information. And as you can see there, it's color coded. You're going to see different screens, and there's going to be some cells that are blue, and those are real nice cells, easy to complete. They're going to have drop-down menus. There's cells that are red. Those are for manually entering information from your system. There's also going to be yellow cells. They're auto-filled, but you can be overwritten if needed. The gray cells are going to be something that you can see, that you can manually enter if you need. And then the green cells are going to be cells where the SCAP tool itself is assessing, conducting assessment based on the information that you put in, and then will eventually kick out some information as to what the SCAP tool considers to be your most critical pieces of infrastructure, and kind of give you a good overall assessment of your infrastructure as is. What we're looking at today is some information from the Omaha tribe. This is a tribe in Nebraska, in Macy, Nebraska. It's got a great operator, Jerry Henscheid. So Jerry agreed to let us use this information for these type of presentations. And so here is information on the SCAP tool on the Omaha tribe's water utility. This particular water utility serves about 1,800 people with 462 connections. The plant produces 500 gallons per minute maximum, about 720,000 gallons per day of water for the local tribe. The first screen you'll see as you go to fill out information is asset category. Nice little drop down here. You can see that Jerry's input information on the control system. If you wanted, here's some more. These are some of your options that you have. You'd have source. This is on the drinking water side. You'd have source, storage, analytical equipment, treatment information, valves, control systems, other, safety equipment, and other. I know when we used it, we've used other and put information in on trucks and tractors and things of that nature, and the program handles it fine. The next thing you'll put in is asset type. In this case, you can see Jerry's information control system, then motor control, and the options you have here are telemetry, SCADA, variable frequency drive, motor control center. You can see all this stuff that ERG did a real nice job of trying to make it as easy as possible for you to get your basic information input into the program so that it can then start doing its analysis of it. Asset description is next. That is, once again, a part where you would be entering information in. Asset IDs is something that if you do have an ID system, you can go on and put that in with your information. You would be putting that information in. This is where it gets interesting. If you know that when if you know that when you put this piece of infrastructure in, the system will go on and calculate the remaining useful life. So in this case, control systems indicated that we thought that was put in 1980. The system goes behind and figures out their estimated useful life. And in this case, it's past its useful life. Jerry thought that maybe they had 10 more years, but in this case, it's got the system will calculate that's really got 0. A little bit more information that you can put in to your system. and then we'll move on to the next screen. So what the SCAP tool will do next is carry the information that you input on the first screen into the next, and it's going to continue that throughout the entire program. So you can see here, here's the control system, a little bit more on the asset description, but then what the system does, or what the SCAP tool does, is prompt you to with a series of questions about each individual piece of infrastructure. In this case, it wants to know about the current condition of the asset. And once again, a nice drop-down menu. We have several different options: excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor. In this case, Jerry considered this piece of equipment to be good. And then also next is a question on just the basic reliability. Is this piece of infrastructure reliable? Yes, no, or maybe you don't know. Now what the system will do, what the SCAP tool does is take these two variables, the input you use, and they will then prepare a condition assessment score, which is 4. We'll use that in more calculations that we'll see next. One tip for you is that we encourage you to do is just to use your best guess on the current condition of the asset. It's real easy to potentially get wrapped around the axle and trying to decide whether it's good or fair or poor, but just make your best guess and move on. Things will happen that aren't expected, and so the main thing is to get the information in the system and then let the system keep track of it. So next up, the next screen is on vulnerability assessments. Once again, the SCAP tool is carrying information from that very first screen on asset inventory, carries it out over through the rest of the system. You can see here that the condition assessment score that we just saw on the previous page is carried over. Here's a 4. What the SCAP tool then does is ask you more questions about this piece of infrastructure and what the ramifications are if it fails, and whether you have redundancy within the system. Once again, nice drop downs. Yes, no, or unknown. How important is it to the customers? Regulatory issues, is there issues? What happens? Public health concerns. And once again, based on these factors, the SCAP tool is going to prepare a criticality score. Useful life and capacity. Is it operating at capacity? Once again, prompts for you. You'll have to input your information at capacity, below capacity, or beyond capacity. So like I said, behind the scenes, the SCAP tool is taking all this information and analyzing it. And then what it does is kind of provide you a report on what it thinks or what the SCAP tool's assessment of your system. So in this case, let's look more. Here's the control system coming through, the information's carried through. Initial score based on the previous screen is 0. POF, failure, probability of failure, is once again, it's been calculated. And you continue here to go. The initial condition assessment score, 4 that we saw on the very one of the condition assessment screens. So what the SCAP tool does is continue to use all this information and then prepare a final analysis of where you're at. This is the ranking. This is really where the rubber meets the road in terms of the SCAP tool. So based on all the information that was input on this system, the drinking water system, and in this case, if you look at the left, we have 54 pieces of infrastructure that were input into the system. And based on those, the most important is this pipe, this raw water pipe, polyvinyl chlorine pipes, is the most important piece of infrastructure in this system that Jerry, and in this case, the Omaha tribe, is going to need to pay attention to. What this ranking is over here by the SCAP tool is it ranks all the pieces of infrastructure in regards to the importance. Where we got tripped up was when we did it, some of us, we thought that the higher scores, like you're seeing some 36s, we thought that would be more important than these lower scores, like this number 1 and number 5 and number 6. reality, like I mentioned, this is the most important piece of infrastructure that's probably going to need some attention, maybe need repaired or replaced in the coming years. These 5 and 6 are up there, certainly in importance. Scroll down a little bit, you can see the number 3 here, more polyvinyl pipe that's needing replaced in a particular part of the city. These high scores, these 36s, these are all things that you, in the Omaha Tribe's case, they would want to be keeping track of, but in regards with budgeting and comprehensive planning or capital improvement planning, it's things that can probably be put off to the back burner some and don't need immediate attention, but they do need certainly maintenance and monitored. So in a nutshell, that's the tool. You can see a couple more pages that you can put more information on. Sometimes it's real useful with tracking down if you got a bunch of equipment and got a bunch of different manufacturers, your contact information can be put in there, an additional screen that you can put in more information on asset management. So we think the tool is great. I know with Jerry Henscheid, when he's an excellent operator, and when he saw these results, he was very much in agreement that with his system, that the SCAP tool was spot on with its analysis of what's important. We think that it's very easy. This is a great system because it's Excel. It's be uploaded and exported into a wide variety of other programs. If you did decide to go with a different asset management program, the basis is here and available with the information that you put in the SCAP tool. So we hope you consider it. We hope you'll leave we hope that you'll consider using this to leave a legacy for your water utility. It's a great start on asset management planning, and we hope it'll get you on your way to maintaining your utilities with great success. Thank you. If you have any questions, give me a call. Put up my contact information real quick. As you can see from, here's my information. Once again, it's Brian Bohnsack, my program manager at Wichita State University's Environmental Finance Center. Thank you and have a good day.